At LinkHumans, we've spoken to countless HR leaders from around the world, all trying to measure employer brand. The Employer Brand Index is used by GE and Unilever on a quarterly basis to uncover and measure their reputation as an employer. With a final score, they can track over time to see how things are changing. We look at what candidates, employees, and alumni say about your organization in an employment context. If you're looking to research your employer reputation, or if you're developing an EVP, this would be the perfect time to create your Employer Brand Index baseline. You'll get a full report of insights and recommendations that you can use to improve your employer brand over time. Head over to employerbrandindex.co and start measuring.
Hey, Sons of Vason, it's Jürgen Sundberg here with the Employer Branding Podcast, brought to you by your friendly team here at LinkHumans out of London. This is, of course, the show where we have an employer brand leader on to answer questions about their company, the talent landscape, what employer brand looks like in their organization, how it's deployed, and lots of tips and tricks along the way. With that, let's start the show. Bryan Chaney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. By the skin of my teeth here in London. It's good, so good to see you.
It's great to see you in person. So you are a familiar face, or shall I say voice, on this podcast. But for those that haven't heard an episode with you in it before, who are you and what is it that you do?
I am a marketer who spent the last 20 years sitting within the people function, and all the way from RPO to corporate entertainment, as well as energy. And I've also worked at a little company called Indeed, and learned quite a bit on the internal talent attraction and hiring team there. Yeah. And so my take is story woven through a lot of things, above the recruiting funnel, the awareness, to within the recruiting funnel, thinking about all the recruitment marketing. And then also when you go into an organization, how does that story translate? What is that experience really like? And are companies keeping their promises?
Yeah, great. And nowadays you represent the People Brand Collective.
Yeah.
And can you tell us in one or two sentences about that?
Sure. So People Brand Collective is a professional association. The function is across three disciplines: recruitment marketing, employer brand, and internal or employee communication. So those are the three pieces, right? So how are people reaching out to you? Do you know their reputation? And then what's communicated to keep you engaged once you start at a company?
Great. Okay. So if we think about employer brand, talent brand, whatever you want to call it, what are some of the challenges facing this space and the practitioners in it?
There are a lot, actually. One of the things that we do is we have biweekly member calls with our members. Right now, mostly in the US and the UK. We do have some folks in Denmark, Singapore, and Australia. So we're growing, but we're hearing more and more of a lot of the same themes. Right. We're hearing things like, first, people who have been out of work for a year or two, there's not a lot of quick movement. Companies, even if they're hiring, they're not sure what those qualifications really need to be, what success looks like. And so that's been an ongoing challenge, but it feels like a much bigger problem now because there are so fewer jobs. It's getting a little bit better. We're starting to see an uptick in the number of available positions, but many of them aren't leveled the right way. They're being asked to do things that either it's really a recruitment marketing role, and they've painted it with an employer brand brush because they know employer brand, and that's the thing that they've been told is the solution to their problems. So there's a lot of things like that's really heavy on a lot of people's minds, but there is movement. And then some of the other things are, the big one obviously is not just AI as a topic, but how AI shows up. We've always been squeezed and told to do more with less. Like there's hardly been an employer brand team or person that I've come in contact with over 20 years that has not felt the squeeze of what are you doing? How can you do more with less? Yeah. Either less hands or less budget. And then, oh, by the way, what are you doing for ROI? How are you proving your value? What are you reporting within the organization? And so all of those things are happening, but now we're looking at how we do that with AI, meaning how can we create content specifically? That's one of them. And so for me, it's not just a matter of can we just use it to create more? Because if you think about the complaints about AI, a lot of it is the oh this all looks the same, right? It's AI slop. There's nothing differentiated. You got the same three bullets and M dashes and all the things because people are just putting information in and then just taking what they're getting. And I think that part is really important to differentiate because you have to know what good looks like to create the prompt. You have to know the things, the nuance and all the things that are important with the story, and you have to have that source of truth to create the content. But it's not just about just doing more. It's really about being more effective with the content that you're creating. And the analysis behind that I found to be really, really cool because it helps you think about what content is performing well, what content aligns up with what your people are saying. And then also, where are those gaps? Meaning, oh, we've churned out this content, it always produces, it always gets engagement. Great, but is it actually aligned with the experience that your people are having? So you can analyze your employee survey data, and you can say, okay, what are the good things? What are the bad things? What are the things that we weren't even aware of? And how does that align to tell us, okay, pull that off your content calendar because it's no longer true. It might have been true 3 years ago, but now things have changed. We should no longer be talking about it because that's false advertising and it's going to create bigger problems down the line. Or the opportunity of, hey, we kind of knew this was a thing, this was that people kind of liked, but it came back big in the employee survey and we're not even talking about it. We're not even putting it out there because we weren't thinking that it would mean so much to so many people. And so there's opportunities there. There's opportunity to pull things off your plate. I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do is decide the thing that's no longer worth our time.
Yes. Okay. So if we rewind a little bit, so we're talking about employer brand roles not being available, AI being both an opportunity and a threat. I think that for me, the big question is if AI replaces roles within an organization, not just employer brand, but across an organization, will there then be a need for employer branding moving forwards if AI can do the jobs for people?
Well, so right now, like maybe one day, AI will be able to replace people in their entirety for some roles, but right now we're not there. It's mostly talk around what could be, and there was lots of studies have come out recently, specifically around our organizations who are laying off people in the name of AI. Are they seeing productivity gains? Are they seeing net returns on that? And the answer is very strongly no. And so we're early. We're really, really early. We like to think, because we've been talking about AI for the last 3 years, we like to think that, oh, everybody's caught up, everybody's using it, and we're all where's the pile of gold at the end of this rainbow of AI that we've all been talking about, and we're just not there yet. We're not there yet from an adoption and education standpoint. We haven't done a good enough job training the AI programs that we're using either. So you have to have that source of truth. You have to have the information. You have to have that content. You hear these stories about AI companies who are indexing public works because they know that it's only as good as the source of truth that you feed it. And and then you have all the lawsuits and everything, right? Because they did it without permission and all those things. But they know that paying that debt is worth it in the long term because then they'll get the return, the outputs will be much better. And the rule that I've heard in a lot of circles and I've been trying to evangelize is 10-80-10. So when you think about how you leverage AI, you got to have that first 10% to define what you want, define what's important, define the pitfalls, and define the things that really outline a successful execution. you define that. That's the first 10. Then there's 80 of just the program, the AI, whatever you're using to go and build that with, right? So you're defining the prompt, you're defining the output, you're supplying the sources of truth, documentation, then you're letting it work. Then you have to come back in at the end, and you have to have the eyes of someone who's seen good work, someone who knows what the purpose is, and can really be the checkpoint to say, is this what we needed? Does this serve our purpose? And does it make sense? And so it's hard to outsource the front and the back 10 in that if you don't have the people who know what good looks like and know the nuance and the situational things that are necessary to get it done.
Yeah. So keep the human in the loop, as they say.
Well, and to me, it's like I go a little bit further, and I say the human is the loop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the AI enabling the human to go do those things. It's not, okay, the human is just checking on the AI, right? We're not we're not just the people who are minding the server farm, right? It's serving us. We're not serving it. And I think that's an important distinction as well.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking about AI, so we have AI for candidates, perhaps when they're researching companies, employers to work for. What are you seeing in terms of practitioners updating career sites and changing up content creation and so on to perhaps make it more authentic, and so that will then be evidenced inside ChatGPT and other places?
Yeah. So answer engine optimization is huge on people's minds. It's not. It's not the the sky hasn't fallen yet, but that's the direction that everything is going, because people are realizing that the search traffic is no longer having to click to the career site, and the career site is actually no longer the source of truth that we wish it would be, because LLMs are treating career sites as biased, which they should. For the most part, they are biased. It's the message that we want people to hear around what it's like to work there. But when you go a step further, they're not clicking to the career site, and they're getting summary content that is being validated by other third-party sites like Reddit or Built-in, or even LinkedIn, but not so much the LinkedIn company profile, but user content, actual discussions that are happening on LinkedIn, user-generated content that helps verify that data. And so right now, I don't think this is going to be this way for definitely not forever, and hopefully not for a long time. But right now, it's the quantity of those mentions. So you know what a listicle is?
Yep.
So a listicle is this is the top 10 list of places to work in Melbourne, Australia, right? That would be a listicle. Yeah. Well, if there were 200 companies in Melbourne, Australia, and 4 of them created listicles of their own, these are the best places to work, and then there's a company that actually got listed on all 4 of those lists, but they weren't ranked highly. They're the ones who are going to get the better validation and ranking and recommendation because of the frequency of that mention. Not necessarily that it's better, but that it was mentioned by more sources. And so that's a thing that's happening right now. And so that also means that you can't quite take all of that at face value. No. But they're also, the numbers are coming out saying that the actual conversion from AI recommendations is much higher as well, over 50%. When people are searching and when things are being recommended. So the answer engine optimization has a lot to do with, is your content formatted correctly? Does it look right? Is it in the big, the thing that you always hear people just saying, you just got to have FAQs on your site, which is yes, but that's not the only thing you need to do. It does have to be consumable. It has to be quick bites of content, because they're looking, the LLMs, everything that's providing the content for those engines is looking for ways to answer those questions and to do it in a quick way. And frankly, they want you using more tokens. They want quick hits of information so that they can continue to go through and say, hey, here's an answer. Would you like me to do some additional research and give you a more complete answer that you actually asked for? Sure, I can do that now.
I think by that time, the person's already sent off their resume or their CV, which is quite easy nowadays. Yeah, we found that the work that we do here at Link Humans, that we find that different models seem to have favorite sources. Sometimes they're really outdated as well, but they do tend to change over time. And it's very different if you look on DeepSeek versus Claude, for instance. So yeah, it's a changing landscape for sure. Metrics and measurements. I think that's a big topic of conversation over at the collective. What's the latest there? What are people doing? How are they showcasing their success and justifying continued budgets?
Well, the first thing that people are doing is they're talking about what metrics they're not putting in front of leadership.
Okay.
So I think there's so many things that we can examine around, okay, what did this mean? What kind of views did we get? We got engagement, right? And so the big theme is, okay, engagement seems like a good thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing. What does that engagement get if none of those people who engaged with your content are either the right people or they didn't convert? So it's understanding, granted, like there's the halo effect of the brand, right? The awareness of that over time, sure, but you have to report the things that are most tangibly linked to the results. So really, it's that editing of what can we pull back, and what are the one or two things that we know are going to be some of the primary drivers of, in this case, talent attraction, which is actually a bigger thing, because I personally think employer branding is bigger than recruiting. And now let me qualify that. So recruiting is a hugely important thing. It's how companies grow, it's how companies fill skill gaps, all those things. But your employer brand, the experience brand, what it's like to work in an organization, not only does it help attract people, but it also engages the people that you have internally. It helps them understand, what does the company stand for? What is the exchange of value that I'm going to have with this employer? What is the actual experience that I'm going to have? How are they going to support me? And what do they expect of me? Which is really, really important as companies start slowing their hiring, as companies stop hiring, as companies make big strategic pivots and shifts. That's when your people need to know what's going on. Why are you doing that? What's changed about our strategy? And how can I have an impact as an employee? What do I need to do, and what do I need to understand so that the leaders can get the production and the direction and the impact that I need to make? One, so my job is safe, right? But also so the company is safe, because if the company's not doing well, it doesn't matter. Like ultimately, I'm not going to do well because the company's not being successful. So everybody has to know which way we're going. And so I think that is huge. If you ask a leader what's the value of an employer brand video, they're probably not going to be able to tell you. And by leader, I mean business leader, like whether that's the C-suite or just a functional leader. But if you ask them, what's the value of not having people who understand the direction, why decisions are being made, and how to contribute to what the business needs and show up in the ways that produce those results, wow, they know exactly the value of that, because those people aren't doing the things that they need done to be successful. And so that to me is way bigger than, can I get the hire? It's, can I engage the people who are here and help them understand? The whole other thing that we won't talk about yet is regrettable retention, which is, there are some people here that probably shouldn't be here anymore. But if you can define what that is, they can start to understand, or at least admit that they're now hearing the explicit truth that the situation's changed. The company you joined is no longer the same company. We don't have the same benefits. We are located in different areas now. We have different focuses, different challenges. And the way that we work was okay back then. But now we have to change, and we have to think differently about that. So not only do you need to align the right people, you also need to let the people who should probably look somewhere else know that, I don't want to say their days are numbered, but I would say is they need to understand what needs to shift in their mindset so that they can grow with the company or grow out of the company.
Yeah, the happy days are over.
Well, and that depends on happiness, right? How they define it. It's just different.
Yeah. We certainly work with a few companies who've installed back to office mandates when they've had lots of employees being working remotely and buying houses in remote places, and suddenly from one day to another, so now you need to be within 1 hour of an office, and it's you either move or you're out. It's
Well, and depending upon the company. So I was at a company that just went through that, and I was leading internal communications. So I was right there alongside. Okay, what are we deciding? Because I knew in advance. So it's like, how are we communicating this? What are the requirements? And how are we treating people? How are we letting them know that this is not a reduction in force in disguise? And so it was, okay, if you're remote, that doesn't mean and it wasn't. But I know people can say certain things, but they treated everybody who was remote very well. They gave them the option. They said, you don't have to move. We want to incentivize you to move, but you don't have to move. So it's understanding how you respect the agreement that the employee had when they started, but know that, hey, advancement, this is what it's going to look like moving forward.
Okay, nice. Okay, and so Bryan, you've worked in this space for a good few years now. What are some of your top tips for professionals listening to this episode right now? Something you haven't mentioned already.
So I think you need, as a professional who's telling the story of what it's like to work at an organization, you need to get comfortable with content that repels.
Okay.
And because I think that's the biggest favor you can do for someone is to tell them, what is this going to look like on the worst day, right?
It's such a strong word, repel.
It is. Yeah. It's repel, because you're saying you're going to have to come into the office a certain number of days a week, or these are the challenges. You're going to be on your feet. You're going to be around stuff that's breaking. There's going to be physical hazards, or we're going to have to work 60-hour weeks when this happens, or like there's all of those things that are just the nature of the work.
Yeah.
Think about healthcare, right? You want people to know and be okay with what this is going to be like on the worst day, not the best day, not the day when you save someone's life, not the day when, the traffic to the emergency room is light and you can sip your coffee, right? But what is this going to look like on the day when it's stressful and things are falling down around you? Are you going to be able to deal with that? And I think that a lot more employment marketers across recruitment marketing and employer brand, they're a lot more comfortable with the idea of being honest and saying the thing, the unpolished thing.
Yeah.
It's the marketing and brand teams, particularly on the consumer side, but also B2B, that are more hesitant to put something out there that doesn't sound great. So I've been at organizations where I had to convince them, and it took weeks and weeks to convince them. And they were in the middle of a rebrand anyway. And they're like, well, why would we say that? Because their clients was anybody with a credit card that they could enter in. So like, why would we talk about ourselves potentially negatively? Like, well, let's push that. Let's push that line. We're not saying, yeah, it sucks to work here. But what we're saying is it's hard. This is not for everyone.
Yeah.
But for the people this is for, this is the experience. And to me, that was the best way we could go. But that took pushing, and that took iteration and getting them more and more comfortable with saying that we're not perfect.
Yeah, great. Okay, and what do you think makes this role or job, this function, so special? What is it that gets people out of bed in the morning and loving their jobs?
The thing, as I talk to more and more practitioners, the people who do this work, it's story, but not just story for the sake of story. It's the stories of people, and it's understanding what brought you to this point. How did you get here? What actually happened to make you want to make those decisions? What did you learn, right? Learning from other people's good decisions as well as their mistakes. And then not just learning, because I'm a full-on people nerd. I not just learning that for the sake of learning it, but also learning it and listening so that those people can feel seen and heard internally, because that's one of the best and sometimes the only recognition that they'll get within an organization. Some companies are great. A lot of companies are not great at recognition. And highlighting that story, even if it's just internal, is one of the best ways to help people feel seen and recognized and appreciated, because they'll show it to their friends. They'll show it to their family. They might share it externally on LinkedIn or wherever, but it's those stories that help people say, you know what, like that is validation. I am doing good work. And the company wants to associate what I do and the kind of person I am with the kind of people who can be successful here.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the thing that helps get people up in the morning, because they either just love hearing stories or they love being a part of that recognition.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, it's all about the people. So finally, Bryan, where can our listeners connect with yourself, and where can they learn more about the People Brand Collective?
Yeah, so you can find me, Bryan Chaney, on LinkedIn
Everywhere.
and all the places, but it's peoplebrandcollective.org. And it's important it's a .org because we are a professional organization, and we are not-for-profit on the nonprofit path, which means that we're going to work a bit differently than most other communities and things that you might see. There's a lot of stuff to build, and we just need some good people to help us build it.
There you go. Thank you so much for your time today, Bryan, and see you soon.
Thank you, Jürgen. My pleasure.
Okay, folks, there we have it. Be sure to reach out to our guest with any questions or just to connect. You can find this episode and the entire back catalogue over at employerbrandingpodcast.com, along with articles summarizing what we have learned. And if you, just like many of my dear interviewees, are interested in measuring employer brand, be sure to check out the Employer Brand Index. Of course, providing unbiased employer brand insights driven by data. It's trusted by some of the greatest companies in the world, and you can find it at linkhumans.com. Or why not get in touch with me and I'll tell you all about it as well. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and catch you next time. Hey, do.